It's a question that's plagued the NBA news cycle constantly.
Who's going to be the next face of the NBA?
Being the face of the league and who is and who isn't and who would want to be.
Another point I wanted to ask you about was the face of the league, passing of the torch concept.
Who will become the next American face of the NBA?
Who will be the new face of the NBA? With each era of the NBA, there's been pretty much a clear successor to transition to. Now, as LeBron gets closer to retirement, everything is called into question. Who has the means to take over the throne of the man literally called the King? With the league expanding further internationally, it only continues to complicate things. In this new series, I'd like to evaluate several candidates that often get mentioned and put them to the test, breaking down their appeal through a mix of performance, media presence, and global influence to establish who mathematically has the best chance at being the new face of the league. Each player will have their own dedicated video in this series I'm calling Passing the Torch. Starting off with the player called the next generational talent, Victor Wembanyama.
He's averaging 40 over 18, 19 games.
No matter how much a player passes the eye test, if they're being outperformed every night statistically, their case for the throne has a weak foundation. The face of the league isn't just a flashy highlight machine. It's someone whose numbers reflect true dominance. Comparing scoring, efficiency, defensive impact, and advanced metrics like PER and win shares, we start to see who truly separates themselves from the pack. Some players might have the hype, but do they have the production to back it up? When evaluating Wembanyama's points per game, he is averaging about 22.5 points per game for his career, which isn't crazy high in this new era of offensive basketball, placing him at 35 all-time in points per game behind several other modern-day players like Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, Giannis, SGA, and many more. However, there's two important distinctions that need to be made when determining this comparison. One, Wembanyama is a center. While only being 35th in points per game, the players that make up the rest of the top 50 in career points per game leaders are littered with point guards, shooting guards, and a little sprinkle of small forwards and centers. There are only 4 definitive centers above Wembanyama in terms of career points per game: George Mikan, Wilt, Shaq, and Kareem. George Mikan was so dominant in his era that the shot clock had to be invented to prevent opponents from literally holding the ball to prevent him from scoring. Kareem held the scoring record in the NBA even with the large time without a three-point line, prior to LeBron breaking it, and arguably is the best center of all time. Wilt, arguably another center of all time, was so dominant it created rule changes just like Mikan, that averaged 50 points per game and is known as one of the most offensive players ever. And Shaq, well, he's just Shaq, shattering backboards and literally bulldozing people for his stats. So all things considered, Wemby is not in bad company among centers for points per game. The other is that this is only Wemby's sophomore season. While Wembanyama has been hyped as the next generational talent, every player develops as they play, like a flower blooming. He still has not hit his prime. He's bound to improve as time goes on as long as he stays healthy. However, in the grand scheme of comparisons, even in only the first few years, the other greats and faces of the league averaged more than Wemby in their sophomore season. So we can take everything with a grain of salt. In terms of blocks, Wembanyama has 430 total, while the legendary Hakeem only had 431 total after his sophomore season as well. However, there are several different grains of salt we can also add to these numbers, so let's evaluate both arguments. While just like evaluating points per game, the argument can be made that this is only Wemby's second season. However, several other players passed Hakeem in totals when comparing sophomore seasons, but that didn't mean that they surpassed him as their career went on. Players like Mutombo, Mark Eaton, each had over the 431 that Hakeem had, and players like David Robinson even had over 600 after his sophomore season. So to say that Wemby's stats would continue on a linear scale would be unfair, as it simply does not work like that. However, Wembanyama is currently averaging 3.7 blocks per game, even a whole 0.2 above Mark Eaton's points per game. While only 0.2 of a difference seems low, for a whole season, 3.7 is 303 blocks per game, while 3.5 doesn't even break 290. In terms of Wemby, the blocks per game is important because Wembanyama unfortunately ended his season early this year, which was a massive story. Wembanyama played 46 games this season, while he played 71 last season. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that if he was healthy, he would play about 30 more games to equal 76. If we take his 3.7 blocks per game and multiply it by 30, that gives Wemby 111 more blocks, equaling 541 blocks in his career already. Along with these stats, Wemby has amazing advanced stats that stand out, with a 31.4 usage percentage that already puts him above LeBron. His player efficiency rating puts him in the top 10 of active players, as well as a box plus minus in the top 11. Wemby is so great that it's been theorized his ceiling could be only the 5th person to record a quadruple double in NBA history. Right now, Michael Jordan and LeBron James remain in a different tier than Victor Wembanyama when it comes to stats and accolades, but Wemby's trajectory suggests that he could one day rise into around their company. Maybe not with offensive stats, but defensive stats like Hakeem or Mutombo. Jordan's sheer dominance is reflected in his 10 scoring titles, 5 MVPs, 6 championships, and an all-time leading player efficiency rating, making him undisputed as a perfect scorer for this category. LeBron, the all-time leading scorer with 4 MVPs and 4 championships, boasts historic longevity and versatility, earning him a 19 out of 20 as his statistical impact stretches across multiple decades. Wembanyama, still in his early years, is already putting up historic defensive numbers and has advanced stats that placed him among active elites, but his scoring and accolades haven't yet reached that all-time great level. While his 3.7 blocks per game and 31.4 usage rate suggest a player with a massive ceiling, he still lacks the MVPs, championships, and sustained statistical dominance that define legends because he is still early in his career. As he continues to develop, his defensive presence could make him one of the most unique statistical players in NBA history, and if he adds more scoring and team success to his resume. This gives him 14 out of 20 rating that could climb into the elite tier over time. The numbers already suggest he's special. The question is whether he can continue that dominance long term in order to rewrite NBA history. With that scoring given, let's now look at Wemby from a different angle. Superstardom isn't just about individual greatness, it's also about where you play. A historic franchise with a massive fan base can turn a star into an icon, while a small market team can have a bit of a limit on mainstream exposure. But history has proven that the truly great ones find a way to transcend their surroundings. So does market size create an unfair advantage, or can a player's impact break through regardless of where they play? Market sizes play a crucial role in how a player is perceived. A star in a major market like Los Angeles or New York will naturally get more attention than a small market like Atlanta or Portland. Wembanyama plays for the Spurs, a franchise with a rich history but not the greatest media presence. While the Spurs fan base is passionate, it lacks the mainstream reach of teams like the Lakers or the Knicks. However, it is far from being the smallest. Hoops Hype ranks the Spurs the 18th in terms of market, with its history of 5 championships and the one thing the Spurs and San Antonio have going for it: loyalty. Spurs fans are ride or die more than any other franchise.
Let's go! You shouldn't have gave us Wemby. What's wrong with you, NBA? We got Popovich.
It's being made by.
Yes! Yes!
Even for the king himself, the Lakers are ranked 3rd behind the Warriors and the Knicks for market size. So market size plays a factor, but some of these other categories can make up for it. LeBron played in 3 different market situations, starting in Cleveland, a smaller market, Miami, a larger market, and Los Angeles, again, top 3. His move to the Lakers, the 3rd largest market in the NBA, helped boost his already massive profile. Even in Cleveland, he was a national sensation, but the Lakers amplified his global reach in a way that Cleveland never could, ranking him a 19 out of 20 in terms of market size. With Jordan, on the other hand, when Jordan joined the Chicago Bulls, the franchise was not yet a major market powerhouse. His dominance turned Chicago into a global basketball brand, similar to what LeBron did for Cleveland. However, Chicago was still a bigger market than Cleveland or San Antonio, meaning Jordan benefited from a mid-market with room to grow, but it was his own stardom that turned it into an international brand, giving Jordan a 17 out of 20 in terms of market size. San Antonio, on the other hand, is a mid-market team with a strong international connection, particularly in France, thanks to Tony Parker and now Wembanyama himself, as well as Argentina with Manu Ginobili. However, while the Spurs have been globally recognized in certain regions, they lack the global mainstream appeal of mega franchises like the Lakers, Knicks, and Celtics. Unlike LeBron, who played for the teams with built-in global followings, Wembanyama will have to sustain success and win championships to push the Spurs into a more globally dominant position. That said, early signs such as his record-breaking memorabilia sales and his immense popularity in France suggest he has the potential to elevate both himself and the franchise's global brand, much like Tim Duncan and Giannis Antetokounmpo did for their markets. But again, there's a lot of debatability in this category specifically. Does playing in a smaller market hurt the chances of marketability, or does it actually help build a more dedicated following like Tim Duncan, Jokic, or Giannis?
They have world champion on their head. World champion of what? The United States?
The NBA has never been more global. From China to Europe to Africa, the biggest stars aren't just American icons, they're worldwide superstars. Some players already have an established global following, while others still need to prove they can command that level of attention. Who has the strongest foothold overseas, and will that translate into true global superstardom? One of the biggest advantages Victor Wembanyama has over the past NBA stars is his existing global fan base. Coming from France, he entered the league as a known international figure, similar to how Yao Ming carried China's support into the NBA. France has already produced NBA greats like Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, and Rudy Gobert, but none had the level of hype that Wembanyama has garnered before even playing a single NBA game. The NBA's push into Europe could work into Wembanyama's favor. The league has heavily invested into international markets, particularly in France, where the Spurs are one of the most followed teams due to Tony Parker's legacy. Unlike American-born stars who must earn global recognition, Wembanyama already had millions of fans overseas before stepping onto an NBA court. His ability to dominate in international games, represent France in global competitions, and serve as a cultural ambassador for European basketball will be key factors in his global rise. Now, how does he compare to other international NBA icons? Dirk had a slow rise to global stardom, but became an icon after leading the Dallas Mavericks to an NBA title in 2011. His status as one of the greatest European players solidified his international appeal over time, but he didn't enter the league with as much worldwide attention as Wembanyama. Yao Ming had arguably one of the biggest international presences of any NBA player ever, alongside Jordan and LeBron, as he brought an entire nation's viewership to the league. His impact helped expand the NBA's reach into China, something no other international player has replicated to that level. Wembanyama may not have as concentrated a fan base as Yao, but his European reach is broad, and he could become the face of the basketball's expansion in Europe. Giannis wasn't a global name when he entered the league, but through dominance, MVPs, and an NBA title, he became a true international superstar. His ability to represent both Greece and Nigeria broadened his appeal, and his humble beginnings resonate with fans worldwide. Wembanyama, on the other hand, entered the NBA with international hype going in, meaning his challenge will be maintaining and expanding his global reach over time. If he's able to deliver, Wembanyama could be the next global ambassador of the NBA, much like Dirk for Germany, Yao for China, and Giannis for Greece and Africa. His potential is massive, and now it's about translating international attention into lasting global appeal. With Michael Jordan, his score is simply 20 out of 20, the ultimate global basketball icon whose brand and influence extend far past the sport itself. With LeBron, it's a bit lower at 19 out of 20, one of the most recognized athletes worldwide with global endorsements and cultural impact, but still not as popular as Jordan. Yao Ming is about an 18, and Dirk's about a 15. Wembanyama comes in at already a major international name in France and Europe, but still hasn't established himself on quite the scale of other players, putting him at around 16.
Yo, Bo Cruz, I wish I had you on my record team in the 70s. We talking about practice? Man,
a superstar isn't just made on the court, it happens off the court too. They're built through media narratives, sponsorship deals, and cultural influence. A player can put up historic numbers, but if their name isn't driving engagement on social media or securing major endorsement deals, their case weakens. Some players naturally draw attention, while others struggle to gain the spotlight. Who is commanding the most media attention, and does it give them an edge in the race for the face of the NBA? The more exposure a player gets, the more likely they are to become the face of the league. Unfortunately, this factor falls more on the responsibility of agents and contracts than the player themselves, but it's still a factor needing to be evaluated. Wembanyama's impact on San Antonio Spurs has been immediate, particularly in terms of merchandise, memorabilia, and social media influence. According to Forbes, the Spurs experienced a staggering 3,000% surge in online traffic and merchandise sales following his draft selection. His debut jersey also set a record, selling for $762,000, showcasing his significance in the collectibles market. Additionally, his social media following grew by 58% in 2023, reaching 1.7 million, a sign of his expanding global appeal. Despite playing in a mid-sized market, Wembanyama's rising profile suggests that transcendent talent can generate widespread attention regardless of location. In comparison, LeBron James' impact on Cleveland, particularly upon his return in 2014, extended beyond just merchandise and into the city's economy. James Madison Institute reported that the ticket prices skyrocketed from $25 to an average of $386, with season tickets selling out almost instantly. While specific memorabilia sales figures from his early career are limited, ESPN highlighted that his presence dramatically boosted the Cavaliers' franchise value and local economy. His return was estimated to contribute nearly $500 million to Cleveland's economy through increased ticket sales, local business revenue, and job growth. Furthermore, LeBron's influence predated his NBA debut, as he was already a national icon, having graced Sports Illustrated as a high school junior. These numbers reinforce that while market size plays a role in a player's exposure, generational talent like LeBron can elevate a franchise or even a city far beyond market constraints. Michael Jordan's tenure with the Chicago Bulls not only transformed the team's fortune, but also had a profound economic impact on Chicago and the broader basketball landscape. In 1998, Fortune estimated that Jordan's career had contributed approximately $10 billion to the economy, encompassing increased merchandise sales, higher television ratings, and boosted attendance figures. Specifically, NBA licensed merchandise sales surged by $3.1 billion during his career, with Jordan's jersey accounting for nearly a quarter of these sales. His influence extended to Nike, where the Air Jordan line generated around $2.6 billion by 1998, revolutionizing sports marketing and sneaker culture. Jordan's presence also significantly elevated the Chicago Bulls' franchise value in the local economy, with the team's value soaring from valuation soaring from $16.4 million in 1986 to over $200 million by 1998, largely attributed, of course, by Jordan. His impact on the local economy was profound, with increased tourism, job creation, and infrastructural development around the United Center. Additionally, Jordan's memorabilia continues to command high values. For instance, a jersey from 1996 to 97 season sold for $4.68 million at auction, underscoring his enduring legacy. With that said, the scores for this category are Jordan 20 out of 20, LeBron 19 out of 20, and Wemby at 13 out of 20.
A little shake, a little tingle. A little shake, a little tingle. Use your head. A little shake, a little tingle. A little shake, a little tingle. Gold bar and powder. A little shake.
The modern NBA superstar is more than just an athlete. Business ventures, philanthropy, and personal branding all play a role in elevating a player's profile. LeBron James has built an empire that expands far beyond basketball, with ventures in entertainment, media, and education, while players like Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal leverage their personalities into global brands. Today, young players like Victor Wembanyama are beginning to carve out their own off-court identities, but do they have the charisma and vision to follow in the footsteps of those who came before them? One player who has completely mastered the art of personal branding is Shaquille O'Neal. At this point, Shaq might just be the spokesperson for every single product you can think of: insurance, pizza, car repairs, and printers. If there's a commercial break during an NBA game, odds are Shaq is selling something. But behind the humor, his business acumen is no joke. His investments span from early stakes in Google to ownership in restaurant chains like Five Guys and Papa John's, and his personal brand is built on charisma, relatability, and constant visibility. His unique ability to market himself while remaining a likable public figure makes him one of the most successful off-court businessmen in NBA history, earning him an overall business impact of 19 out of 20, just a step below icons like LeBron James and Michael Jordan. LeBron James, of course, sets the gold standard for modern athletes expanding their reach beyond the game. From Spring Hill Entertainment, which has produced movies like Space Jam: A New Legacy, and the Hustle film featuring NBA talent, to his lifetime Nike deal worth over $1 billion, LeBron is a walking empire. He has also made a lasting impact through his philanthropy, most notably with his I Promise School, which provides education and housing assistance for underprivileged children in his hometown of Akron. His influence extends far beyond basketball, making him one of the most powerful athletes in the world, with a perfect 20/20 rating in off-court impact. Then there's Victor Wembanyama, a player who is still early in his journey but is already laying the groundwork for a strong off-court brand. At just 19 years old, he has signed brand partnerships with Louis Vuitton, positioning himself as a rising figure in both basketball and fashion. He has also invested in Barcode, a health and fitness drink, demonstrating an early interest in leveraging his name beyond the court. While his philanthropic work is not yet well documented, it's clear that Wembanyama has the potential to expand his impact as he grows into a more established superstar. His business moves and international appeal already give him a solid 12 out of 20 rating, and if he continues to follow the paths of players like LeBron or Shaq, he could one day become one of the most marketable players in the world. While LeBron is still finding his footing in the off-court space, other modern stars like Stephen Curry and Giannis Antetokounmpo are also making big moves. Curry has built his Eat, Learn, Play foundation while also signing his high-profile business deals with Under Armour and various tech companies, earning him around a 16 to 17 out of 20 rating. Giannis, on the other hand, has started to expand his global branding with his own film Rise and multiple endorsements, but he is still nowhere near the level of LeBron or Curry yet. In today's NBA, superstardom is more about just winning championships. It's about building a brand that expands across industries. Whether it's Shaq selling every product imaginable, LeBron building schools and production companies, or Wembanyama stepping into the global spotlight at an early age, the modern superstar must think beyond basketball. If Wembanyama continues on this path, he has the potential to be one of the next great icons, but he still has a very, very long way to go.
Okay, Mrs. Puff, what's my final score?
6.
Woo! And how many do I need to pass?
6.
Ooh.
100.
What?
After breaking down every factor, global appeal, endorsements, media presence, and cultural impact, it's time to see where Wembanyama truly stands. Some of the most marketable players in NBA history have set the bar very high. This chart helps illustrate where Wembanyama stands in the race to become the next face of the NBA. He's already in the All-NBA tier, but what does it take to reach the MVP level and beyond? In the 90s tier, we have the true icons reserved for simply the absolutely biggest names that are almost impossible to enter. We have Michael Jordan at a 98 and LeBron at a 95. Almost no one can reach this level, and only the absolute best of the best will in terms of influence. Next, we have the 80s tier, with era-defining superstars with major global reach. We have Kobe Bryant at 87, with Mamba mentality turned into a movement, massive international fan base, even after far beyond his retirement. A bit lower, we have Magic Johnson at the same level, with him and Larry Bird's rivalry pretty much saving the NBA from bankruptcy, so he deserves to be at this tier. Going a bit lower into the 70s, we have all-time greats who had significant marketability, but weren't necessarily global icons. At the lower level of the 70s, we also have Tim Duncan at 71, who was universally respected, but his quiet nature never really made him marketable, and he always stayed in the shadows of greatness. In the 60s tier, we have stars who are well known, but not face of the league material. Players like Dwight Howard, Paul Pierce, Clyde Drexler, George Mikan, and so on. In the 50s tier, we have good players with moderate cultural footprint. Andre Iguodala, given the I Want Iguodala meme, Ricky Rubio for all of his impact whenever he was younger, Chauncey Billups, Shawn Kemp, and then as we go lower and lower, we have role players who had notable careers, but aren't really marketable in their own sense. So, with all that said, where does Wembanyama fit? With the factors we analyzed, his international appeal, uniqueness, early media presence, and potential, Wembanyama currently sits around a 75, putting him at the potential of around a Larry Bird level, which is still under several past stars, and definitely not GOAT status, but still admirable. He's already getting attention like Shaq, Dirk, and Magic did early into their careers. If he wins MVPs or championships, it could push him a bit closer to the 80s. Reaching the 90s, though, would require a historic level of impact beyond basketball. Victor Wembanyama stands poised to become one of the most marketable players in the NBA, particularly in the post-LeBron era. The NBA's increasingly global reach and Wembanyama's unique attributes position him well to captivate a wide audience and leave a lasting legacy. With strategic off-court engagement and continued on-court success, Wembanyama is well equipped to rise as a prominent force of the league, inspiring fans worldwide and securing his place among the NBA's elite. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my take, or do you think I'm overrating or underrating Wemby? Let me know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please do all the cliche YouTuber algorithm stuff, as it really does help me out. That includes liking the video, subscribing, sharing the video around, or simply commenting for the algorithm. With all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Don't forget to also buy the merch down in the description or in the end card at the end of this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now.